show.
Yeah,
we have a
yeah.
fun day.
Which is
lined
great
up
because
for
on
you
a day
today.
like this, that's what you need,
That's
right?
what you need. We are here today in Mariana to warm your spirits on a cold day and to brighten them up on
Absolutely.
a dark day. So that's exactly what we are here for. We've got three fantastic guests lined up for you this morning. We're going to be joined very shortly by Jay Burdett from Sound Around, followed by Amanda Beckwith, who's the lead blender at Virginia Distillery Company, and last but certainly not least, one of our favorites here on the show, Jeff Kamrath. He is the owner of Aquasivo Hand Tar Wash. So we got a lot going on today.
Oh,
Three
absolutely.
fantastic, companies here from right here in Virginia. So we're excited for it.
It's very exciting, and I mean, this is the season to be excited in the first place, and having these three guests is going to be fantastic. I can't wait.
Is. Absolutely. And another thing, of course, we're excited for is tonight's
yes.
Today y Mañana Guest Appreciation event. So, anyone who's it's open to the public. So, food is gratis. As I was told by.
Does that mean free?
I was told by Ulrika Morse on with Forward Adelante never to say free.
Oh, okay.
She says it sounds so cheap. So she says you got to use
Gratis.
like complimentary.
I see.
So there's complimentary appetizers and maybe some specialty cocktails from Castle Hill Cider.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Castle Hill Cider, so beautiful spot. It's gorgeous in Christmas time. They decorate it beautifully. A nice, cozy, warm place. So I know the weather is a little dark today, but there's nothing better than to get cozy.
That's what you need
in the midst of that. So we would encourage everyone to be sure you can find the details on Facebook. You can find the details on Eventbrite. You just go to Today y Mañana. You can't miss it. And it's tonight starting at 5:30, from 5:30 to 7, I believe. So you got plenty of time to pop in, say hello, have a cider cocktail, have a couple appetizers, and just enjoy the company of all the wonderful people we've had on Today y Mañana.
And it's a beautiful spot. I mean, granted, it's going to be indoors today, so you won't be able to see the outdoors.
It's
but
nice.
it's a great
It'll be
spot
nice and
both in
cozy,
and out.
though.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll have its own benefits to being indoors. So we are looking forward to that.
Cozy is the appropriate name for this kind of weather, right?
Oh yes, that's what you want, right? That this time of year, that's the warm and fuzzy feelings that we encourage people to do. So, grab your café con leche, settle into your warm spot. What else should you do?
Like and share.
You should like and share.
That's important. Absolutely.
It's very important. And
nothing like it.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're very excited to have you joining us this morning on a cool, to say the least,
cool wet day
here in Charlottesville, Virginia. But that's just a better opportunity to grab your café con leche, get to your cozy spot, and sit down and listen to or watch, however you choose to do it, some Today y Mañana this morning. So,
well, it's going to be a great morning today.
It is. We've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to be joined very shortly by Jay Burdett from Sound Around, followed by Amanda Beckwith, the lead blender at Virginia Distillery Company, and Jeff Kamrath, the owner of Aquasivo Hand Tar Wash, and a frequent friend on the show.
Absolutely.
So we got a lot going on. Of course, thank you. Love being on the I Love Seville Network set. Thank you to Emergent Financial Services for presenting us. And of course, that we love being powered by our friends at Aquasivo Hand Car Wash at Castle Hill Cider. At the Gym Seville, we actually had the opportunity to visit
that's right, exactly.
the gym, which I'm sure footage of that will
come
is being worked on in the back room. But
the 400 weight lift I was doing, that's fantastic. You got to see that.
We'll see. I don't think the audience believes that, and when the footage comes out, they definitely won't believe it. So, but we had an opportunity. I mean, Gene was great at the gym. He worked with Xavier, with Michael, and myself, just sort of showing us just what it kind of looks like.
Just the stretching exercises were amazing. Yeah.
And the focus on form. To sometimes you go to do exercise yourself, and you're like, I'm gonna bench press.
Well, the bamboo, absolutely. The bamboo weight lift was challenging. Let's be honest, because that thing is like just
forces you to really
think
about what parts of your body you're using on a daily basis. Because I think a lot of us watching the show, and I know Xavier and I, we tend to have sedentary jobs. We We tend to sit.
We don't use many
most of the
muscles,
day.
you're trying to
Don't
say?
use a lot of muscles. And when you get there, Gene works with you and it's like you realize, oh my goodness, I have not been using this muscle.
Exactly.
And even Michael, who's been bench pressing, was like, yeah, my form.
Well, that's what it was. It's a
It's
form.
to show you how's the right way to do it to make sure you're working out the right muscles.
Exactly.
So the personalized attention, which is what you get when you go to the class. So because you've had, I'm sure a lot of the audiences have seen Gene and Justin come on the show, and you think, it's a class, right? But it's not a class where everybody's just sitting there doing the same thing, and Gene is on top, singing along with the songs. He's going around making sure
he figures
everybody's-
out what's the best exercise for you, what's
Exactly.
the best weightlifting, how to start, right? And he does it really by looking at how you're stretching and the mobility that you have, and how do we begin going from there. And
Exactly.
I just
Which
thought
is-
it was fantastic.
It was a great experience. They've probably got at least one or two new members out of it, but just fantastic. And we look forward to sharing a lot of that with you shortly. So that was fantastic. Looking forward to tonight's event at Castle Hill Cider, 5:30 p.m. today, mañana event. I know it's cool. I know it's chilly out there, but there's a great opportunity to warm up as the
Exactly.
And there'll be specialty cocktails. So as the dice
complimentary
says, complimentary
appetizers.
and the specialty drinks, and of course, as the dice says in Miracle on 34th Street, when it's cold outside, a man's got to do something to keep warm. That usually involves a little bit of alcohol. So if you need to do something to keep warm,
I'm not sure how many people are going to remember
Today,
that particular scene,
I know, but it's an RB joke
Yeah, I know.
that we've done. So if you need to do something to keep warm, Castle Hill Cider is the way to go.
That's right.
So it'll warm us up, and we're looking forward to seeing a lot of our amazing guests and community members there.
Absolutely.
So looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to today's show. Of course, we're also partnering with our good friends Miguel and Chit at Credit Serious Insurance, and of course with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. So we got a lot in store today.
That front, yes,
A lot
we
in store,
do.
but I am very excited to jump right into it. I think it's going to be great.
So do I.
Same here.
Yeah.
So, we'll start with first. Here we go. We're really excited to welcome to the show this morning Jay Burdett. He is the owner of Sound Around. Jay, thanks so much for joining us this
Thank
morning.
you.
Good morning, Jay.
Good morning.
It's fantastic to have you here. So, for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started Sound Around.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Wisconsin and came from the cold into the a little bit less cold.
Less cold, yeah.
But I've been in Charlottesville since 2016, and I've always been a musician. I've been in choirs my whole life, and started playing violin and played some piano, and I play guitar and that sort of thing.
Wow.
And so eventually, when I wanted to start recording as a teenager, I started looking at, okay, what's going to make this room sound good? What's going to make the guitar sound good? And it's a whole world of microphones, and eventually you get to sound treatment, so that rather than sounding like you're in a bathroom, recording in a bathroom, you kind of know that echoey sound,
Right.
where it might sound good when you're singing in the shower on your own. It doesn't sound so good when you can't make out the words.
Yep.
And so that kind of introduced me to acoustics, which is a little further down the line of what Sound Around does. So I kind of split it into three different segments of what Sound Around does, and I can kind of walk you through basic,
absolutely.
basic
Yeah, no.
to complicated.
Exactly. Yeah. So what
But,
are the kinds of segments and the services that
Yeah,
people
yeah. So,
use?
so one of the services is simply sound engineering. So I've been working a lot with bands that come in and do weddings, or at Basic City Brewing Company in Waynesboro, they'll have live music. And so sometimes a business would just need a sound engineer to come in. They might even have a system of a sound system,
Right.
and a band comes in, and you meet that day, and you say, hey, what do we need to hook up where, and how do we make you sound good tonight? And that's a lot of fun. And then there's the forgotten folks that maybe don't have a PA system. And so what Sound Around is there to do is to fill in those those gaps, because there are definitely companies that do your big rock shows, your big, your stage shows, running the pavilion and that sort of thing. And then there's the pool party or the quinceanera or the wake or something where you may say, okay, well, cousin Jimmy is going to play guitar and we have a couple of singers here, but what are we going to do? How do we make this fun?
Right.
And so what's cool is that it really isn't, you don't have to own your sound system. You can rent it. I'll come in, set it up for you, and all of a sudden your iPod or your laptop turns into a bump and sound system.
Oh, wow.
And so you can kind of be your own DJ and that sort of thing. And so there's a space in between, where you'd hire a wedding DJ company where, certainly upwards of $1,000 sometimes to, okay, well, let's just bump up our game at the pool party out back and have some fun with it.
Yep.
You can bring a subwoofer and some bigger speakers than maybe you would have expected and have a good time that way. And so SoundAround provides that sort of thing as well. So I can service speaking events, conferences. You could do things like, looking at recording a recital or recording an interview and then help also with setting up. So someone who maybe wants to try out, like, hey, I've got this idea for a podcast. I want to record maybe 2 or 3 podcasts, see what it's like before I invest in equipment. All this stuff that you guys use costs a lot of money, and you might not want to invest in that right away. And so it's something that I can provide advice, sort of the basics, get you going, run the soundboard, run the computer, and do a little mixing, and add music behind it if you want, and then you can come out with a product that's you're not paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for studio time for your first attempt at a podcast, but it's also a step up from just your phone in your living room. And so it's kind of cool,
Yeah, kind of to take things that you might be tempted to just say, all right, I'm going to just do this with what I have on hand, and sort of take them to that more professional level. Like this, it's not costing you, like you said, you're not renting out a whole building to set this up, but you're saying, I want my podcast to be a little more professional, to see how it looks. I want to see what it looks like with the professional looking sound, with the making sure that, like you said, it doesn't look like I've recorded this on my iPhone.
Right, yeah.
Right? To see, all right, if I have that, do I go forward
what
with
does it
this?
sound like?
Or if you've got, like you said, if you got your recital, you want to have that memory look like a beautiful sound recital. You don't want to be playing it back 10 years from now and you're like, I can barely hear my kid on the piano because they were great, but my iPod was really not doing it.
And even things as basic as the advice to, okay, where should we set up the speakers? How do I hook this up again? Maybe you have a sound system at home, and maybe you just moved and you had the speaker system set up at your old place, and now you're in the new place, and like, I've got cables everywhere. I don't know what to hook up. I don't want to mess with it. Call SoundAround, and we can walk through it.
Exactly. I'm curious. Has technology, gotten to a place where you need less equipment, or do you need more equipment? Because I assume whatever was available 20 years ago is way different than what's available today.
Yeah, largely things are actually very much the same.
They are.
Some things have been combined, and some things have been broken out, and that's why it can be so confusing as well.
Okay.
And so sometimes understanding that, certainly we've added capabilities. So adding Bluetooth capability, adding, now music is streaming. So fewer people have 1,000 CD collections but certainly vinyl is around too. And so, there are a lot of different ways you can hook up a sound system, but largely things have stayed very much the same, and we've only added the complication of being able to control it with a smartphone.
Because I remember when I was a teenager, I started buying those big speakers at home and put them in certain places. And now you go to the store and they got these little tiny speakers, and I hear them. I said, boy, those sound just the same as my big speakers at home. So is there a difference?
There is a difference. So certainly there's still a place, and there's still a community of, you know, audiophiles and folks who buy the big speakers and still like the big speakers. You can do a lot with a Bluetooth speaker. You can do a lot with something like that. And some of what Sound Around can do too is simply advising on like what's going to be the best setup for you.
Right.
I mean, that's today with anything, with technology, our curse is the curse of choice. We have too many choices, right?
Yep.
And I'll tell you, there's a lot of companies out there doing all they can to make you spend money on stuff that you
probably don't need.
don't need, or is too much for you, or isn't really what you want.
Right.
And
Right.
so sometimes, you know, the advice can actually save you money in that way.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of like a prepackaged thing of just here, it's
Yeah.
all yours, and we'll set it all up, and you sit there and say, I really didn't need this much.
Yeah.
You're trying to working with people to say, you know, this is what, given your situation, given what you're looking for, this is the equipment you need, and I'll help set it up for you.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm curious, when did you sort of decide to take the plunge of saying, all right, I'm really into acoustics, you've gained knowledge about this, I want to turn this into a business?
Sure. Yeah. So I had done a little bit of sound engineering before, some of my own recording. I was working at Crutchfield, so
Okay.
you know, a company that's a long history in town, and so familiar with a lot of that gear, and knew that there was a space in the market. You know, there are plenty of people coming in asking questions like what we're describing today, and then there's this other element of acoustics that I'm really interested in, where you know, I'm the guy who gets into the physics of it, and that really interested me in studio design, sound treatment, and that sort of thing. And that's where I think that, you know, some of the things, the more basic services we're talking about, can benefit from having that background knowledge
Exactly.
of actually how sound works. And that's where some of the most interesting things can happen too, with how our brains work and how sensitive our ears are, and that sort of thing. So.
And it's interesting because if you know, depending, you know, we've been to different places where we listen to, you know, symphonies, right? And there's some places where you go in there and the acoustics is just fabulous, and then there's some places you go in there and you just
The sound
is just bouncing off, so you're not hearing the crispness of the new sound. The old sound's still bouncing off, and you say to yourself, you know, it's not perfect, right?
Yeah.
So I would assume as you know, your expertise, you know, in saying sound does this, therefore, you know, we need to make sure that this doesn't bounce off that wall, and et cetera, so on and so forth.
So absolutely. Sound Around is really looking into acoustic consulting. So that would be a service where an architect or a designer or someone redoing their home theater might want to look into and have a liaison or someone who's familiar with the effects of sound and with the products that are out there, so that instead of, you know, there are plenty of people, they want to put a great home theater in their basement. And they do everything. They build the room, you know, put up the studs, the 2x4s, cover it with drywall, put up the TV, set up the speakers, and hit play and say, how does it sound? Well,
Might be a little late.
yeah. There are certainly things you can do, but going from the beginning with a design element, you can. There are awesome products out there with you know, different wall coverings, the way you construct the walls, or certainly sound isolation. You know, you don't want your you know, the bedroom next door necessarily to get the subwoofer bass when you're watching, you know, Maverick or whatever.
Yeah, there you are.
But so there's a lot of cool things you can do with that, and you know, it's actually becoming more and more prevalent, certainly in architecture and in renovated spaces. We've got these great, beautiful old buildings, especially in Charlottesville and Richmond and all over, that need to serve a purpose other than they originally served, and so the ability to communicate clearly, to have privacy when you need privacy. Say it's a bank. You know, there are places now that are old renovated buildings,
Right.
and you've got a banking counter there and a coffee shop next to it. Well, it's it's hard to hear the teller if you don't have proper design and attention to the
Good point.
acoustics.
Yeah.
With the coffee shop noise. And furthermore, you don't want, you're reading off your bank account number and wondering, like,
The diners to be hear it.
yeah.
Who's
and-
hearing this?
and so you'll see these things here and there. Sometimes in a restaurant, you might see, you look up and say, what's this, panel hanging from the wall? And sometimes it's like an attempt because someone, they said, oh, we've got to treat the walls or put some sound treatment in here to quiet it down. And sometimes the attempt is respectable, and other times it, could have used a little work as well.
Yeah.
But that's the effect where you're sitting at the table and you're yelling to the person next to you. just to-
Exactly. Yeah, we've been there.
yeah.
Yeah.
to hear what the other person's saying. And the louder you are, the louder the whole situation
Exactly,
gets.
yeah.
And so some of what sound treatment can do as well, an intelligent, thoughtful design of what panels go in the ceiling and what can go on the walls, can help, a restaurant, usually you want a restaurant, for instance, to still kind of feel busy, but to cut down some of the background and even out so that you've got clear communication with the person across the table, but at the same time you can hear the other tables across the room just as sort of an excitement of like,
Exactly,
hey, we're in
yeah.
a cool hopping place, but without actually hearing their conversation.
Exactly. So that's basically, you do the consulting part. Obviously, you've got the actual rental if someone needs the equipment as well.
Sure, yeah.
Out of curiosity, what's it been like on the entrepreneurs? Our audience always loves. So what's it been like to sort of run your own company in this space? What are some of the things that excite you? Some of the challenges, some of the opportunities that you've found?
Sure, yeah. So, this is a great place. There are a lot of businesses and a lot of places that can really benefit from this sort of thing. You think of all the wineries and
Right.
cideries and tasting rooms around, and one of your next guests probably knows about tasting rooms, and so there are a lot of spots where Charlottesville has a lot of businesses creating atmosphere. We have awesome places with great food and wedding venues and live music, and so we're looking at all those things, and so our ears are only one of a very few senses we have, right? So we've taken care of taste because we've got great food, and we've taken care of sight because things look great. And if you don't pay any attention to your ears, to what things sound like, that's a big part
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
it. So that's certainly, I think. The challenge is probably that it's not a visual medium by nature.
Yep.
So people tend to perhaps shy away from something that's, that maybe they don't have as good a handle on or haven't heard as much about. And
It's maybe tougher to visualize.
I was going to say,
like,
because it's not visual.
It's
right?
not like it's not like you go to your website like, this is what
Yeah.
great
This is what sound looks like.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more like sort of educating people. Yeah, you need to be thinking about this.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it too late, then it's you may not realize it. It's not like you can look at it like you looked at a space in advance and say, all right, decor wise, this space
Yeah.
needs a flower there, this there. You don't walk into a space and say, yeah, this space will sound like this on the actual day of my event.
Yeah.
But you want to bring in someone to say,
Yeah.
you know what, I need to make sure that there's someone here who can look at this space
Yeah.
and say, or at least know how to test it and say, yeah, this is what it's going to sound like right now. Here's what we need to do to really bring it up to that level where you're going to be happy. If it's an event, your guests are going to be happy. And if you're recording it, then the people that eventually listen to it, including yourself, are going to be happy.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about sound treatment. It is an investment up front in many ways, or it's their design decisions. But the last thing you want to do is budget a certain amount of money for it, if you are budgeting for it, and then just throw something at the wall
Yeah.
and see what sticks and not know what's going on.
Well,
And that's-
especially since the sound itself can also now cost a great deal. I mean, if you're having an event and you're bringing in either a DJ or a band, particularly if it's a band and they don't have their own acoustic, like if you're going to be spending $2,000, $3,000 on a band, you better spend the extra money to make sure that that band sounds
Sounds good,
good
yeah.
and isn't drowning out your guests.
And
In
this
other
is
words-
something that a venue can benefit from moving on for years and years in the future. Everything sounds better. You've got, I mean, if you guys have a day or two, we can talk about all this stuff. But sound. There's so much research nowadays with how background noise, how the sound environment affects our stress levels. I mean, you think about, say you were, getting a massage and trying to relax, and you didn't have this nice quiet room, but you were in a big, loud, echoey room. It'd be kind of like hard to relax, right?
Good point. Yeah.
And so, so that's the sort of thing that a venue, especially where you're spending a lot of money for your wedding, you want, you want the music to sound good, you want guests to be able to talk to each other, and you want, you want to be able to hear the waiter and, and not make mistakes that way, that can really benefit long term with having a good sounding space, and it can really step up the sound of the environment. And really, it's something that takes work to talk to people about this that don't encounter it on a daily basis. But this is something that high-end buildings, new buildings, architects are really thinking about, and obviously the concert hall is spending a whole bunch of money on
Thinking about
acoustics.
Exactly.
So it's what's cool about Sound Around is I'm bringing this to the common man,
Exactly, yeah,
and,
exactly,
and
yeah.
giving you some of the benefits of physics and science and what sound does into your daily life.
Your own home. Exactly.
We're all hearing, and
Yeah, sure.
you can't close your ears like you can close your eyes.
That's
you
true,
know,
too.
so-
Yeah.
Yep. A couple comments. Thank you, Elizabeth Irby, watching the show today. And she's saying, agree, why do so many coffee shops have the worst acoustics sometimes? So it's definitely something to think about.
It's true. You go to a coffee shop, you go there to chat a little bit with a friend or whatever, and you can't each other talk. Yeah.
So such a key. Well, Jay, it's been, before we let you go, gotta ask, where can people find you, get in touch if they're
Thanks.
interested
Yeah.
in learning more?
Yeah, so everything is at Sound Around Seaville. So in other words, I have Facebook, you can find me at Sound Around Seaville, Instagram at Sound Around Seaville, and otherwise Jay Burgett on LinkedIn. You can find me there, and soundaroundseaville.com.
Okay.
Perfect. So very
Beautiful.
easy. Very
Yeah.
easy.
Sounds around.
Jay, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on
Thank
the
you,
show
Jay.
this morning.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Oh yeah, no, very, very, very true. So important to think
No,
about.
it is, it is.
Especially people that love music.
I mean, let's be honest. We've been to quite a few number of weddings also where it's like the
Can't hear.
music is so loud and bouncing everywhere that you
Yeah.
can't even hear the person next to you, and
and,
you're
and he's exactly right. It gets you stressed. You're
Yes,
sitting there saying,
yeah.
the more you can't hear the person next to you, the more you're like, I am getting stressed. I need to go outside and talk
I've
to
been
you.
at conferences where you sit down, you're talking to people that you don't know, and you're sitting and you're going, I don't know what he said. Do I ask him to say it again, or I kind of
Yep.
just knock my head as if I understood because the noise is so loud everywhere around you.
Exactly. Thanks for the guests for watching. Salvador Doana, thanks for watching the show this morning. Elizabeth Irby, thanks for watching the show this morning. Lily DeRay, of course, thanks for watching the show this morning. She likes the red vest of the festive vest, so I'm glad.
I'm so happy that she likes your
I'm glad
red vest.
somebody noticed my festive vest. I'm so glad. I'm like, this is me getting into the Christmas spirit.
That's right.
With the festive vest. So fantastic. You got to be festive this time of year.
Absolutely.
Gotta enjoy it.
No, we should try to do it every day, but during Christmas is the best.
And speaking of festive,
Yeah.
and something that can also make you festive, Feel festive. We're really excited to welcome to the show this morning Amanda Beckwith. She is the lead blender at Virginia Distillery Company. Amanda, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, my pleasure.
Oh, no, I like the festive look as well.
Absolutely,
Right?
yes.
Feeling
Can't
it.
beat it. Definitely. So, Amanda, tell us a little bit about Virginia Distillery Company and how you came to be part of it.
Absolutely. So Virginia Distillery Company is just outside of Charlottesville in Livingston, Virginia, and we make one type of whiskey, American single malt. So that's a whiskey distilled from 100% malted barley, and we get to play around with some incredible casks, really let the whiskey age up and develop great flavors. And I started out as the guest experience manager building the tour and tasting program. And over the years, as the whiskey was maturing, my knowledge of the whiskey was growing along with it. And by the time we were ready to select our first casks of single malts, I was moving into the blending side. So I'm now lead blender.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Wow, that's
So-
a fantastic journey to be like,
Really is.
helping people enjoy the whiskey, to being like, no, I'm gonna go into like how the whiskey tastes.
So how do you even come up with that? I mean, I can't even like imagine how to make a whiskey taste differently, right? So tell us a little bit how that works.
Right. Well, there are so many different styles of whiskey, from bourbon to rye to single malts that can be made anywhere in the world. And for me, I think that the great source of flavor really is the barrels, because the three ingredients in our whiskey are water, yeast, and barley. It's pretty straightforward. But unlike, say, bourbon or rye, which has to be made aged in new charred oak, I can use any types of barrels that I would like. So I use sherry casks from Spain, port casks from Portugal, red wine casks from all over the world, use bourbon barrels. I get to have a lot of fun.
Wow, yeah.
That's interesting. And
Wow.
each one of those
Cherry from
casks,
Spain, that's gonna be good.
I know, that's gonna be good. His
And
family
the
originally from
port,
Spain,
and the Portugal. I
we're
mean,
big
both of
fans.
those. I mean, which one do I want?
I'm curious, so each of those casks, depending what you put the whiskey in, will sort of change the flavor. Do they impart a little bit of the flavor of what was in the barrel? A little bit?
Absolutely. It's, I would say, a large part of what was in the barrel before, but also finding how it's going to mesh with our distillate. What the barley character is going to deliver, how will that combine with the flavor and the time spent in the barrel? Because the more time in the barrel, the more wood influence is gained.
So do you test these? I mean, do you put them in the cask and then like every day, every week, go taste a little bit? Obviously, I'm exaggerating, and not every day, but do you go taste it and say, yeah, it's right, and then do you leave one a little longer and see what happens to it?
Absolutely. We've been aging our whiskey since 2015, so I'm still learning what to expect from these barrels as time increases. But my job is to be up in the cask house every single week. We have thousands of barrels, so I can't tell from just tasting a few what everything's going to be like. So I'm trying to go around to as many different areas of the cask houses as possible, getting my data in, and then just tracking the trajectory of the barrels as they're aging over months and years.
What's your favorite so far?
Oh my goodness. We have one cask type that I've been in love with for years. We call it the Cuvée cask, and in its first life, these barrels came from Europe. They held a premium red wine blend, so Spain, Portugal, or France. And after the red wine is taken out, the cooperages will shave the inner staves just a few millimeters, toast with indirect heat, and then blast with a light char. And then we get the barrels and move our whiskey in. And that whole process brings out incredible wood sugars, so brown sugar, chocolate, ginger, pecan, all of that comes through, along with the red wine notes. So raspberry, cherry, blood orange. It's just such a great combo to play with.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's crazy to
That
think
really
just
is.
doing that to the wood afterwards
Yes,
just totally transforms the flavor it can give to the whiskey.
absolutely.
So, and how long do these barrels last? I mean, once you do that, do the barrels then have to be discarded or sold to somebody else, or can you use it for another year or another whatever?
If you treat a barrel well, it can outlive you. That's my goal anyway, to make sure these barrels really do keep having multiple lives. So we'll use bourbon barrels that have already been aging for, a decade maybe or more, and we will use them for maybe a decade here, but then we can pass them on to a local cidery or a brewery or a winery, and then we might take them back. I have some barrels I've traded back and forth with cideries up to 7 times now, which is incredible.
Of course, you traded
So
to them,
it's
and
Yes.
once they've put cider in it, now
Aged
it
it in
can
whiskey
do
barrels.
something else.
I'll finish it. So we do a
Right.
cider cask finished whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a
That's
great way to
amazing,
showcase
yeah.
local flavors.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
I didn't realize that.
Jesse Rutherford, watching the show this morning, says Virginia Distillery is a great business in the town of Livingston. So you've got a fan watching.
Thank you, Jesse.
You got a fan watching this morning. So tell us a little bit about, because I know one of the things, you go to your website, right, and the first thing is there's that flagship product, which I
Yes.
think is what you brought.
I
You want to hold it
did.
up for us today. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about it, because I mean, this is the one that has won a lot of awards. I mean,
Yes.
too many to count on.
I know. I can't remember. I know 96 points from Wine Enthusiast the month I think we released it, so we were pretty happy about that. This one is really interesting because it's a whiskey that we've aged in roughly 50% first fill bourbon barrels, roughly 25% sherry casks, and about 25% of those cuvee casks I talked about. So playing with all of those flavors, building them in, you get a lot of complexity and layers. It's really approachable on the nose. It's like apricot and maybe a little bit of red fruit, and then that chocolatey pecan note comes in with a cinnamon spice finish. It's really layered, and if you add water, more vanillins and cocoa come forward. I love pairing it with food, and I think it just shows people what single malt can be, because a lot of times people might think, oh, peated scotch or something like that.
So basically, you tell me is you go from, you put it into one particular barrel after X number of months or years, right? You put it into another barrel,
So
and then the third barrel.
what we do is age individually in different types of barrels, and then I'll pull samples, think, okay, this is going to work well together, and then blend all of those together in a big stainless steel vat.
Oh, okay.
Add a little bit of water to get it to bottling strength, and then bottle it. So they are individually aging in different types of casks. Now we
Oh,
can
got it,
finish.
I got
So
it.
the cider finish that I talked about is exactly what you just said. After aging 5 or 6 years and use bourbon barrels, then I'll move it into a cider cask for maybe an additional year.
Wow. Okay. I
Yeah,
get
'cause
you. I
I
get
think,
you. So-
does you also, right, Virginia, if I'm correct, Virginia Distillery Company also sells the ones that have been aged just in a certain cask? Because I think I've had at Nicholas's house the one that's aged 100% in the sherry cask,
Yes.
which is fantastic, which is amazing.
Thank you.
It was so good. So it's more like, as you taste each one, sort of figuring out, all right, this is the combination that needs to go in here to make this the best that it can be.
Exactly. We have lots of different products that showcase the different barrels and the different flavors.
Oh, that's incredible.
and tell me again, what does single malt mean?
I love that question. So single
Great.
means a single location, and malt
Okay.
refers to the barley. So our mash bill is one ingredient, malted barley. And I'll talk about why that's my favorite grain if you want. But
Yes.
the single malt, just straightforward, it's distilled and aged at a single location. And
Okay.
we bottle it all on site too. So it's this great story of you get a sense of place. You know from beginning to end where this whiskey came from.
Absolutely. Tell us. I'd love to hear like why that's, what's the specialty of the single of the malt, right, and,
Yeah.
and the barley that you use, and why you love that so much.
Oh, barley is such a great grain because it has these enzymes that you need to convert the sugar over for alcohol. So without that, you'd be lost. And a lot of your favorite bourbon brands probably have at least 4% or more barley in their mash bill. It's just the most expensive grain, and it's trickier to grow. Virginia
Okay.
has really high nitrogen levels in the soil, so we work with farmers through the North Midwest, all the way into the southern reaches of Canada. 600 plus farmers now. And I've grown a little bit on site. I'm not a farmer, but our team has experimented. But for the most part, it's just really great to see this high quality grain coming through and have this delicate malty flavor that works so well with so many different cask types.
Oh,
Wow.
that's amazing. And you mentioned pairing it with food, and I think I'd love to ask you about that, because I know, I think a lot of people, when they think of whiskey, they don't really think of having
No, that's
it
true.
with food.
Yeah.
You kind of just think, all right, yeah, after dinner, you know, you did a
Or
cigar,
before dinner.
or before dinner. Before
Or when
dinner.
you're cold coming in.
But what are some of the foods, appetizers, the things that can be paired with single malt whiskey?
Oh, when I'm up in the cask house, I'm always thinking as I'm pulling samples from the barrels what food I'd pair it with. So those cuvee casks that I talked about, I would always go with like a flourless chocolate cake with a raspberry coulis or a New York cheesecake, something with that graham cracker crust to come right in. The sherry casks, charcuterie, smoked meats, cheeses, you name it.
Yep.
It's really got
Makes
this
sense.
backbone to stand up well for that. I mean, we do the cider cask. I've done a baked brie with a puff pastry, drizzle some honey on top, Granny Smith apples,
I'm getting really hungry here.
candied pecans on the side, or walnuts. Yeah, it's just a match made in heaven, and that's the type of thing I'm making the whiskey for experiences, parties, celebrations, for people to have a meal and just sit down and enjoy it.
Enjoy, yeah, because I think there's something different and special about having a good whiskey
Yes.
with food. Right?
Absolutely.
Because you're not just putting it in a cocktail and putting a bunch of stuff in it. You're enjoying the pure flavor of the whiskey and how it can be enhanced and changed by having it with a baked brie, or by having it with charcuterie, or by having it with a cheese cake or a chocolate cake. So it's so important to think about having it in new ways that you might not have thought of before.
Absolutely.
Which is great, right? Because you think about it. I mean, we kind of grew up with wine, right? So we always have different particular wines with what we're eating, right? But we've learned that you can do this with cider, you can do this with whiskey now, right? In the sense of, there are certain, whatever whiskey it is, right, that may go with certain foods, and it's great to know. And I would say that's one of the things I also grew up with is that when we drink, we always have food. We never at home just drink just to drink. There's always something on the table, again, whether it be cheese, with salamis or desserts or whatever, and we're drinking along with them. So gotta try that with the charcuterie.
With the charcuterie, which
I
makes
like
perfect
that.
sense, because it's funny how what you age it in can influences that, because you would, in Spain, of course, you would drink sherry.
Right.
With charcuterie, like you would drink it with Spanish
with the
charcuterie.
tapas, right?
With the
The
tapas,
tapas, little things, yeah.
is what you would have it with. So by imparting that flavor, it's like, you know what, this ends up working well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
With that kind of tapas. Wow, that's incredible. Out of curiosity, is the distillery a place that people can visit, see how it works, or have a tasting there?
Yes, we are open for tours and tastings Wednesday through Sunday, I believe 12 to 5 p.m. So people can come, book a tour, go through the distillery, visit the casks, see our bottling in action. It's a really fun experience to see it in person.
Yeah, because that process must be
that's gonna be good.
so interesting. Just the way it works and the things you have to think about when combining them to create this. That's just incredible.
There's a lot that goes on to make a
what-
bottle.
yeah.
We just kind of enjoy that bottle, but behind the scenes, we can see that there's a lot going on.
That goes on there. Wow. And so on this one, what are some of the awards that this has, that the flagship has won?
So I know it's gotten gold, double gold, platinum in different New York Spirit competitions, San Francisco, Ultimate Spirits Challenge, Whiskey Advocate and Wine Advocate have all ranked it really highly. So yeah, wine enthusiast. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's up there, and that's so great to hear, because I know we talked about like Virginia, Virginia wines, Virginia whiskeys, Virginia ciders. We've had them on. It's always wonderful to see those kind of Virginia products be recognized, not just in Virginia. It's not as like, oh yeah, this is
It's
the
not
best
just
whiskey
local,
in Virginia.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like no, this is a top whiskey in the country that is winning awards, not just in the state of Virginia.
It's true.
That's
That's
fantastic.
amazing.
That's amazing. And so, what are if people want to learn more? Where are some places people can find you? Go to learn more, find out where to go in Livingston to visit and so forth.
Absolutely. We have a great website, vadistillery.com, so you can go there.
Okay.
We have a whiskey finder, so you can plug in your zip code and see what liquor stores or restaurants have our whiskey around you. And then, yes, you can find all about ways to come visit us, our directions, of course, but also fun things like recipes or facts about
yeah.
American single malt. We
Wonderful.
really enjoy education, so that's a big part of vadistillery.com.
Now, can you sell that at your place, or do you have to only
We
buy it
can.
through?
We are licensed as an ABC
Okay.
store because Virginia is a control
Okay.
state,
Yes, yes,
so
I
we're
understand that.
technically
That's why I was
ABC store 016.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Actually, I was going to say before I let you go that was the question, but we actually have an audience question for you, because Kevin Hidden says he says a comment, it's worth a trip just to see the distillery and tasting room alone. It's unreal. The stonework is incredible.
Oh, thank you, Kevin.
And he asked, looking down the road, do you foresee our area maybe having like a whiskey trail similar to the bourbon trail that's in Kentucky?
That is a dream. I would love that. Ragged Branch is not too far, so
Yep.
that's on the trajectory towards us. Again, there's some incredible cideries around. We could do some really fun things, and I'd love to see more tourism in the area.
That would be good.
fantastic.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
there are. I mean, I didn't know that about Virginia, before I moved here. But little by little, I've learned there's so many places to go in Virginia here that whether it be a cider, winery, whiskey, it's incredible.
It really is, and it's true. I think one of the best things about it is that you go to a place like Virginia Distillery Company. It's not just okay, I'm going to see this industrial warehouse and you're not just going to taste the whiskey. You're going to taste the whiskey in a beautiful environment. Like
Exactly.
and it's the taste about so many of the wineries and distilleries and breweries and cideries in Virginia. They're in beautiful places, right? So you get to enjoy the visual aspect of nature, right? The work that's gone into the design of the distillery. I mean, Kevin Hinch's just telling us it's just gorgeous, right? But then you add the taste. So you get in all the different senses that come together to just make it such an enjoyable experience.
And you know what's also beautiful is that the people, you can see that they have the passion for what they do, and when you ask them a question, they liven up and they explain things, right? As opposed to you go to a store and it's like, yeah, well, this, and there's no liveliness there. It's like they're not selling you anything, right? But you go there and it's not that they want to sell you, but you can see in their eyes in how they comport themselves.
Well, just having
the beauty.
you on,
Exactly, right here. This is perfect.
Get some food and start eating.
We'll come visit.
No, we will.
No,
Absolutely.
we will for sure, and I'm sure our audience apparently has already visited, but I hope
back.
many more of you, be sure to check it out and visit. Check out the web. What's the website again that people can find out more?
vadistillery.com.
Oh, super easy.
Easy.
vadistillery.com.
Even I can remember that.
Yep, it's extremely easy, and definitely encourage you. It's a beautiful spot. The whiskey is fantastic. I haven't had this one yet, but I'm going to soon.
I have to talk to Nicholas about that.
You're probably
I
upset
don't
with me.
remember him
How
giving
come
me
I
this
didn't
whiskey.
get
He's
offered
obviously
this?
hiding it from me.
He's hiding it from you. He knew you might have 2 glasses of it, so he wanted to save it from or 3. So yeah, and last thing from Kevin, he says the last 2 trips he's made to wineries, he struck up conversations with customers, and he's telling you how many people from out of the area are here on vacation just to tour our distilleries, our breweries, and our wineries. So
I love that.
it's
that's
fantastic, and it's I think it's a testament to the great work that you do there and all the others in our industry. So
Thank you for sharing the
Well,
love.
thank you.
thank you so much
Congratulations.
for
Wonderful.
coming on and sharing your
Absolutely.
passion with us.
Yes,
We
thank you.
appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you. All right, so as we do another swap here, a couple more people watching the show. Just want to give a quick shout out. Ann Wayne Blair is watching the show this morning. Woody Fincham watching the show this morning. Spencer Pushard watching the show this morning. Catherine Lochner, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Kevin Higgins, always with the great comments and great questions. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So that goes a long way to making the show.
That's another trip we
more
have to go
exciting.
to.
That's another.
I love those trips where you go and you
you
taste
love
things.
those trips. I know. Another field trip.
Food, wine,
Yeah, that's
tastings.
Today, Manana
Liquid.
field trip that Xavier has no choice. No
Yeah,
choice
absolutely.
but to take.
I love those no
and,
choices.
And sacrifice and take that. So we're definitely looking forward to that as well.
Definitely.
So and
Definitely.
just from one great local company to another, we're really excited to bring on the show once again Jeff Tamrath. He's the owner of Aquasivo Hand Car Wash. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
I
And
know,
can
Jeff.
I move that we pause and go to Virginia Distillery right
I'm
now?
all for it.
We can just stop what we're doing.
That's what we need to do. That'll be our next. Judah's probably saying no, please. That'll be our next. He's like, can we just stop and go live on
road
air?
trip it. Let's go.
Live on air in a road
Bring all the
trip.
equipment with us.
Judah said, no, please, guys, please. Don't do this to me. The road trips. So, Jeff, I mean, how have things been going at Recibo since last time we had you on? I think it was the summer that we had you on.
That's
last.
right. It's been a minute. We've had a good year. We're wrapping up our 2022. We're into the holiday season, so for us, that's a lot of gift certificates, gift cards, presents that folks are
Yep.
buying it's a nice way for people to think of us and think of them. So we really appreciate folks doing that in the holidays. So that's kind of our focus right now as we go through the holiday season. But it's been great. It's been a fun year. I think I told you guys last time we'd opened our second location.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
Zion Crossroads, and that's been going great as the
Wonderful.
express tunnel. Unfortunately, it's raining today, and it's pretty nasty weather, so
That's
we're
usually
closed. We're
not
doing
the-
some maintenance out there and
Yep.
some cleaning work out there. There's always something going on, you
Yeah.
know, when you run these businesses, and you got to utilize those days as downtime to maintain your equipment, clean your
Exactly.
equipment.
Exactly.
So it's not that we're typically going home and just hanging out. We're actually working. So we have a crew of guys out there getting things ready for tomorrow. We expect a busy weekend with the nice weather. So
Yep.
be chilly, but we should have some sunshine.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was thinking about that. I said on a rainy day, what happens? But I never thought about the fact that you got this equipment and you got to keep it going and you got to clean it. You got to make sure it all works perfectly. And I would assume on rainy days it's like, okay, guys.
Yeah, so the hand wash we don't have quite as much because it's mostly just hoses and carts and just towels and things like that. But the tunnel wash, it's these big pieces of equipment. There's a big long trench with a pit that catches the dirt, and so you've got to wash that down, and all of those mitters that spin, a lot of dirt gets on the walls, and so you scrub the walls down. You got to scrub the equipment, keep you don't want to get a fungus growing or something like that, and or an algae, which can lead to a bad smell or something like that. So we're maintaining that. Sometimes you're swapping out a hose that you think may fail at some point. And sometimes you have to do that on the fly during the day, which is you get wet. But other times you can kind of plan in advance with. You're going to get these days from time to time, so you kind of just schedule this stuff out. And so it's another way also to keep your guys engaged, rather than just have a day where they're not able to work. You get them in, they're cleaning, and it's a way to keep the hours going for those guys, which they really need to have happen. So it's one of those days today.
How often does that happen anyway? In the sense of taking a look at it. Let's say you have 60 days of sunny weather. I mean, at one point you say we have to stop.
Yeah, it's pretty rare you're going to have a stretch like that. You would look at any opportunity, but if you say you had a 30, 40 day stretch where it was just dry, you may have to stay late one night or come in early one morning. And you would you prioritize. What's the most important? What's the thing that if it fails will keep you down? For instance, today we have to take a link out of the chain, so the chain over time stretches and elongates and can get loose and cause cars to kind of hop the roller, which isn't a bad thing. We had put 2 or 3 rollers for every car, but as that chain kind of gets stretched out over time, you would be surprised with all the steel and metal, but it can.
You wouldn't think that. I wouldn't think that, yeah.
And so you have to take a link out to keep the tension in the chain. So that's one of the tasks we're going to be doing today is taking a link out of the chain.
Is there special equipment to?
There's a tool you can buy. It's called a come along. It's you basically hook 2 ends of the chain together. It's got a lever action, a crank, and so it basically compresses the chain, creates some laxity. You pop a link out, which is pretty easy to do once you have some laxity in it. You connect it back and you release the tension. Just, you just got to be safe.
I'm thinking the way I do things. With the hammer.
That would take a while.
I know, that's what I'm saying. There's got to be something.
Well, I had to learn how to do it. I'd never done it before. So we were fortunate. We have a bunch of guys on our team who've worked in car wash before. So they've done this kind of thing. So they were showing me the first time we were doing it. So now I know what to do. But typically we have those guys just kind of take care of those tasks. They're really good at it. And we're fortunate in that category, in that sense, to have some really some guys with some experience. So it's been great. But then at the hand wash, we'll do other things, right? We may have to go top to bottom. We may clean the baseboards. We may have a job that needs painting inside. It's been 5 years, so we want to go repaint the baseboards, repaint the trim. So we may have some of our guys come in and get some painting tools and things like that. But may catch up on some laundry or just some office work as well. So we're always doing something.
Exactly. Yeah, it's getting those things, those behind the scenes things done. That people come in, you drive up your car, you see what the car wash is doing, right? You try to do the hand car wash, you see what the guys are doing, and then it's like, but there's also that 50%.
It's rare that we're not doing something.
Yeah,
even on a day like today. So I'm fortunate to be able to be here with you guys today. But I'm always doing something.
Yeah,
the one day that I try to take off a week is Sundays, but you're not really ever taking a day off. You're always kind of paying attention. So that's the life of a business owner. And I know all these other folks who have been on your show before, they know that. You guys know that. You're always thinking about it. It's never, my wife and I have a saying, it's always something, it's never nothing.
Yep.
That's kind of our go-to phrase. We almost say that when I come home at the end of the day and I'll say, oh, this happened. It's always something, it's never nothing.
That's so true. That's so true. Absolutely. When you're in your own business, it's like you don't just shut the lights, walk out of the office and see you Monday. It's like, you're always thinking about things that have to get done. Did I do this right? Something pops up every once in a while. It's like, oh boy, I got to take care of this right now. So,
but all the behind the scenes stuff that makes the business work and be possible for that front end stuff that the customer actually sees. There's all those things that make that possible that have to be taken care of.
Yeah, to be a seamless effort, it's not a seamless job on the back end. It's more work. The better run the place is. I mean, I always think of Chick-fil-A, right? Like the reason Chick-fil-A's drive-through is so efficient is because there's so much work that goes in the back end. I mean, you ever go look in a kitchen in Chick-fil-A? I'm lucky to know the owner of the Pantops and Barracks location, so I've got to see in their kitchen.
scenes.
It is wild how many people are back there that you never see in the front of the house. And they are so efficient. It is a machine. It is just boom, 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 boom. And you always think about it like how much work has to go behind the scenes so the customer, it just is seamless.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that's great customer service. And so those are the things you're always thinking about as it pertains to your own business is how do I make it that seamless? And it could be something as simple as, what's going on, and I have 3 team members and different things are happening in their lives, and could that affect their performance or their engagement and their interest in continuing to put out great service? Can I talk to them about it? What are the steps to do that? And it's like hearing a computer in the background. It's always kind of spinning and humming
That's
and
true.
going.
That's true. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, your businesses are obviously a little different. Our service business is a little different, right? In the sense that, you have equipment, you have people in the sense that are working on Sunday. So anything pops up, there's a phone call to Jeff. We obviously don't have that because the markets are closed at least. So it's like nobody's calling and say, what's going on today?
What's going on
So at
with the
least
market?
From that perspective, at least we don't have that go for us.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
when you're running a service-based business with customers. You're right. It's always something. My wife and my family and I'll go to church and I'll put my phone on Do Not Disturb for that hour. That's the one time I'm like, you're not getting a hold of me. Short of the place burning down. So, it's been fun doing it though. I really enjoy the aspect of being a participant in our community, not just from the operational standpoint of the business, but we're developing properties to increase property value. We're employing folks. We're giving back in the community in certain ways as best we can as a small business, whether it's like to your local Little League where you're donating some sponsorship dollars, which we like to do where we live in Crozet. So it's things like that really bring the joy to it, not just the service base. That's a big chunk of it. That's the majority of it. But it's that other stuff that you get to do that maybe is the first couple of years it's coming at you really fast. But then as you can kind of slow some things down, you can kind of start taking those opportunities to say, hey, what else can I do? And what's this opportunity like? And how can I help over here? And do things like that. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the beauty of being a small business owner is that you get to make those decisions. You get to say, these are ways that I want to use the business that I have, worked hard to produce to give back in these ways,
Right.
and to serve the community, be connected in these ways that I think is beneficial to me, but also to everyone else.
Right, and I think that goes towards your kind of concept of being a holistic participant in your community, right? Like, yes, you can own a business, yes, you can employ folks, but there are other needs in the community, and you're not going to be able to pick everyone and solve everyone, so you got to pick the ones that mean the most to you and have the most impact. And so that's what we do. For instance, like we donate to our teachers fund at our kids' school, right? That's a big important thing. Teachers need, more support, more resources. They can always use more pay. We all know that. But like we also do something with our local league, our baseball league.
Right.
They're always looking for more dollars to improve facilities or have more equipment available to kids who may not have the ability to buy new baseball gloves or bats and things like
Exactly.
that. So we're able to do things like that we're really proud of. And that's kind of the pivot as you become a business owner and you've moved down the line of, okay, I know how to operate this business. I know how to make it run. It's like, okay, where are the other opportunities for me to utilize this platform? And so doing that, I think, is part of that whole idea of being a responsible business owner, not just running a great business.
Yeah. No, I
Exactly.
agree.
There's so much
I
more.
agree.
And it's true. You think about it as you enter that, not necessarily expansion phase, but where you've stabilized, right? You've made it past that sort of thing, that phase you talked about where everything's rushing at you, and you're able to sort of step back and think about the other things that the business can do. And in fact, I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to ask, as you've gone, because this was the year where you expanded, like you
Right.
did your first expansion beyond the original
Right.
hand car wash. What's it been like? What are some of the things you've encountered as you say, okay, I'm taking this next step from a business in this location to I've expanded, I've grown in a new way?
Well, that's a great question. I honestly haven't thought about it a ton, other than to say, we did make a pivot from the hand wash business to the tunnel business, and that was more a function of my ability to operate the logistics of a hand wash. I think it wasn't going to be really feasible for me to spend my time growing and operating. It's just there's too much day-to-day operations at the hand wash, which we love having. I think it's kind of like our baby. It's what got us started. But you have to be really present. And even as somebody who's been able to hand a lot of the responsibilities off to a general manager and management staff, I still have to be around and present enough to. There's issues that pop up from time to time. You have to be able to go to the location. And so if you were to expand that into other locations, it would just be really difficult because of the head count that we have from a staffing perspective. So that's why we pivoted to the express model. There were also some kind of financial components to it, with private equity really jumping into that space. It kind of seemed to, if we were going to start making bets on expanding the business, we really needed to think about the model that we were going to support and how that would eventually be, because you always think about at some point, like, what is my end game? And so obviously we love running the businesses, but you also want to run a business that maybe at some point there's an opportunity for you to take a step back. So we had to think about it that way. And so what that's done for us in the short term is just more awareness, more, we've stretched out into our reaches now into Louisa and the Zion Crossroads there, so people are more aware of what Aqua is and who Aqua is and those types of things. But, at some point we're going to have to take a look at the Louisa, Fluvanna, Palmyra areas, like how can we contribute to that community more? We're still in that, we're drinking from a fire hose phase out there. We're just still learning about how we need to run it, how to market it, how to sell for it. But as we start to get a little bit of the feet under the ground under our feet a little bit more, we'll be able to do more things like that. We have opportunities to do fundraisers out there. We have opportunities to do fleet services, and so we'll start kind of hammering those probably in the next year as we kind of, like I said, we're only 7 months in right now. So as we get to 9 months, 10 months, 12 months, a year in, we'll have some of the more bandwidth to kind of start focusing on how we contribute to that community as well, not just what we're doing here in Charlottesville for the hand wash. So we're excited for that, but first things first is make sure the business is running great. So that's the priority.
Exactly.
Do you find that, have you seen any situation where people have gone to the Zions Crossroad and then learned and found out that you have one that's a hand car wash here and say, hey, I actually like to go there instead, or maybe
Or
for
to
this,
both,
or to both in a sense, I need this particularly done on my car.
There's a lot of education around it. For instance, they are technically different businesses. So like our membership services don't overlap. Mainly one's a hand wash and one's a tunnel wash. There's just different value sets there. So we can't commingle the memberships, even though that's a common question. The other thing too is I think a lot of people think if they live in Zion but they've come to our hand wash, they're maybe coming into a hand wash, and so there's a little education there. It hasn't been a ton, but what happens is a lot of times we can feed detail level work, so that higher end service set that's interior level detail or a hand wax or a polishing, things that you can't do in a tunnel, we can do in Charlottesville. So it has helped from a knowledge based perspective, but ultimately, they really are two different types of communities where, yes, we see a lot of folks in Charlottesville who commute into Charlottesville, and that will gain some traction there. We don't see a lot going the other way. It's mostly the folks who visit our Zion location live in that area, out there. Or they spend a lot of time doing their grocery shopping or their errands. They may be from Palmyra, they may be from Fluvanna, they may be from outskirts of Louisa, Lake Anna type of thing. Even some people coming over closer to the Richmond area who don't want to be shopping in Richmond, they'll come this way. But Zion's is as far as they'll go because they don't want to mess with a bigger town.
Yep.
So we see a lot of that. Charlottesville is a big town. So that's typically what we see. We haven't had a ton of confusion. It comes up from time to time. But what we do is we have some coupons that we can share back and forth. Like, hey, we don't do this service here, but you can go to Charlottesville. We know it's a drive. Here's a coupon.
Right.
Things like that. So it's been helpful.
And, a couple lights. Thanks to Rob Holla watching the show this morning, John Alvarez, Tristan Zaya. We got William Wagner watching the show. Most importantly, Ginger Camrath liking the show this morning.
I believe my wife and my mom are watching today. My mom's recovering from, she had her knee replaced the other day, so she's a little immobile. She's doing great.
She's doing well.
Oh, yeah, her spirits are great, and she sounds awesome. I mean, the technology has come so far with how they can get you back. I mean, she was walking, 4 hours after surgery.
That's incredible.
Which is
Yeah.
just
Good for her.
wild. It was wild.
For her too, though, 'cause you got to have the right attitude.
You got to do the rehab. And so I
Absolutely.
call her every day.
Gotta
You're doing
do
your
the
rehab,
Exactly.
Mom.
Exactly. That's important.
So shout out to Mom. Shout out to the wife. Hi, Ginger.
There you go. They're shouting you out on the show. You had mentioned sort of giving back, and so I just wanted to touch a little. The last time we had you on, we were talking a little bit about Virginia baseball,
Right.
and just sort of ways to utilize the fact that NIL,
Right.
name, image, likeness, has now come to college sports, and ways to use that in a more giving back in a nonprofit kind of way. And so just want to talk to you a little bit about that and how that's going and what are things people can be sort of looking
Yeah.
forward to a little.
So the last time I think I was speaking with you guys, we hadn't announced it, but I told you something was coming.
Yep.
So a group of former baseball alumni and myself have launched what's called the 1186 Legacy Foundation. And what that is, it is a 501c3 charitable organization designed to help leverage NI opportunities for UVA baseball student athletes. That's all we're focused on is UVA baseball. And pairing those opportunities through charities locally. So great example is this fall, we were able to work with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Virginia, which is right over off Cherry Ave,
Yep.
and we ran baseball clinics in the afternoons, 3 weeks in a row. We would have a third of the team would come over, the baseball team, and they'd split into groups for an hour, and they would basically give a baseball camp to these young kids, and it was a blast. They had so much fun. It really just evolved into just scrimmaging all over the place. We tried to run some drills, but the kids just want to play with each other, get outside and play wiffle ball and all this stuff. So we also had a bunch of contributions from the community for gloves, which the kids didn't have a lot of them over there. So you need to have a glove, obviously, to play baseball. So we collected a bunch of those gloves and brought those over. And then that all culminated in a final camp with a dinner that was provided by the Corner Restaurant, which a local establishment,
Yep.
just great folks.
Long time, yep.
So they provided the dinner, and then we were able to provide the Boys and Girls Club with a $3,000 check
That's
from
wonderful.
from our organization, and then because of that, we're able to pay the players for that name, image, and likeness opportunity, and then leverage it through social media and other opportunities to help them gain awareness. And also, be competitive in the NIL landscape, so that UVA baseball can continue to remain a national powerhouse. So as alumni, we were seeing these opportunities that are coming down the pipe.
Right.
Other schools are taking advantage of them in different ways. I mean, everybody is going to kind of skin the cat their own different way. But we really learned through a lot of research. We originally, looking back to January of 2022. And it took us 7 months to kind of hit on and found the right structure. And we really felt that, contributing to your local community is vital. It's something we were actually required to do as student athletes years and years and years ago. And as the limitations from the NCAA started to get a little more strict and stringent, that kind of dropped off. And we really felt that at the time we didn't really appreciate what we were doing. You're a young kid, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You don't really understand what that means to your community. And so we really wanted to reintroduce that in some way, shape, or fashion. And we really felt that by pairing these two opportunities together, everybody would win. And so the board members and I that are all former Virginia baseball players, and then we have one attorney who is a UVA grad, not a baseball player. We have to have that guy.
You gotta have the one guy.
Gotta have that guy. We all firmly believe that this was an opportunity we couldn't say no to. We had to do something. And it serves the baseball program long term from their ability to say, hey, look, we have no control over this, but there's a group of baseball players who have this opportunity. Should you want to take advantage of it, go talk to them. That's what we do. We create these opportunities. The players can choose to accept them or not. We work with them on a fair price, and it's basically a marketplace to say of services that they get to come take opportunity to, but then they get to go into the communities and interact. And that's the real key of it, because what we've been able to do through that is we've had these little training seminars with them, whether it's us kind of talking to them as board members, as now business people or financial folks who are not playing professional baseball. Most of us aren't, there's some. We get to say, hey, this is what life really looks like. And we went around the room the first time and said, hey, who wants to play professional baseball? And every hand in the room went up, And then I said to the board members, who here wanted to play professional baseball? And every hand in the room went up. And then it's who here did play professional baseball? And almost every hand went down. There's 2 were up. And you start to show these guys, it's like, look, your life, you may think it's going to go one way, but you have to plan, whether you're a professional baseball player or not, where you play, live, reside, start a business, that's your community, those are your people. And you have to be in that community taking care of them. Should you be blessed enough to play professional baseball in the big leagues, you'll have a huge stage to do that,
Right.
but most of us won't. You know, injury, performance, ability, whatever it is, age, like most of us won't play at the big league level, even if you get to the minors. So use these opportunities to kind of build your own character base and that kind of that giving, we call it the giving muscle. It's just like you're going to the weight room and, you know, you're doing your exercises for your arm strength or your core or whatever it is. Like you have to practice that muscle of being present in your community and giving back.
Exactly.
And yes, they're getting paid for their time, but that really is secondary. It doesn't really come down to that. They're there engaging with these kids and creating relationships. And that was the first set. We'll have to do we'll do a semester program every year. And so we're kind of in the design phases, what that looks like for the spring. But that's the big thing we're trying to get at is, and it's not about making a ton of money, right? It's nice to have a few bucks in your pocket, but for us, it's about creating that muscle. And so we've been able to do that. And what the other really awesome thing is all of our funding from the 1186 has been 100% baseball alumni donated.
Wow.
No outside money so far. Now, that may change over time as we grow and our needs change.
But it shows you just the community sort of coming together,
Exactly.
the baseball
Yeah.
community in particular, coming together and saying, we want to make sure that this
Right.
is an opportunity
Right.
for the kids that want to come to UVA, but to give back, not just to do the NIL.
Right, and we're closing in on almost 100 baseball alumni have donated. I mean, you're talking about a significant
Yeah.
groundswell in the
Yeah.
program. So it's something that we're excited to continue to grow, and it's one of those things we'll need to continue to fundraise for that from those alumni. And so we're excited to kind of let that continue. We'll go into the spring and have our spring programming, but then hopefully as we go back into the summer and fall, we can start to rebuild that base again and present those opportunities to those student athletes. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work.
I was gonna say,
None of us get paid to do this. This is all volunteer, by the way. So it's one of those things. It's a passion for Virginia baseball, the student athlete in general, our community, and then what it means to be a Virginia student athlete. Like we look at that as like there's student athletes and there's other schools and there's a lot of other great schools and programs out there. But for us, and we take a point of pride. You know, Virginia student athlete, the education you get here,
Exactly.
the honor code, the
Yep.
groundswell, the character building that you're embarking on when you come on grounds is something that is second to none, I think, and it's very important that we extend that opportunity to these young men.
That's
Well said.
amazing.
Well
That's
said.
awesome.
That is awesome.
That's so well said, and just such an
Recommend.
important development here, to an important group getting together and helping these students to do that, to be competitive for the team as NIL goes, but to channel that into something that grows character, that's consistent with the character of Virginia student athletes, and that helps the community. It's just great.
That's exactly right.
combination.
And that doesn't take away from other NIL opportunities for
No.
other kids. I mean, Cavalier Futures is another one locally, and they're a great organization. And the other nice thing we've done is we're not exclusive. You can go work with anybody. Like our whole goal is give you opportunity. This is just one in a bevy of opportunities you may have as a student athlete. So go take advantage, but be smart. Understand what you're getting into. And these student athletes, a lot of them, it's the first time they've signed a contract of any sorts, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Usually your first contract is a professional contract, but now you can sign. So they're having to go to their parents and talk to an attorney, and it's good practice in general, just for their
Absolutely.
lives. So that's just an ancillary benefit, but it's one of those things where it kind of gives you the idea of like, hey, this is what life is going to be looking like a little bit, and these are the opportunities coming to you. You need to vet them, do your homework,
Yeah.
but then obviously once you put your name on something, you got to go do it, honor it, and it's again part of that character building.
It is. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That's fabulous. Wow.
Jeff, it is always such a pleasure to have you on. I think at this point, down 29, they pretty much know where Aquasivo Hand Car Wash is. Maybe remind people where to find the second location.
So Aquasiville Hand Car Wash right by Bodo's on 29. You got to be going northbound on Emmett Street.
Yep.
And remember, we are appointment only, Monday through Thursday, if you're not one of our members. But we'd love to have you as a member, then you don't need an appointment. You can visit that website at aquaseville.com, book any service there. And then the Zion's Crossroad location, it's right off I-64 as you're at the Zion's 136 exit, where the Sheetz, Walmart, and Lowe's are. We're right next to Sheetz, in between Sheetz and Walmart. It's easy to see. It's easy to find. It's a nice big building with some big lettering. And then that website is aquacarwashexpress.com. Sorry, I was blanking for a second.
No, there we go.
No appointments necessary there. Just come on in. We are running a holiday special on our memberships. So our ultimate membership, our top membership, which is a $20 wash, which would normally be a $36 a month membership, which is unlimited car washes for recurring billing, it's $10 for the first month.
Okay.
It does go to $36 after that, and you can cancel anytime. There's no contract. So some folks sometimes get a little confused. They think it's just $10 one time, and that's it. It is a monthly charge, but you can cancel it. So $10 for your first month, watch as many times as you want. That's a really awesome offer.
That's
we
a
hope
great
that
deal.
people come out and take advantage of that. That will end December 31st. However, we're having such success with it, we may extend it. We'll see. Don't hold me to that yet.
Yep.
But
Don't
it's been
count
a
on it. Do
it's
it
been a
before
discussion.
December
It's been a
31st.
discussion. So I'm not gonna say one way or another, but we've had a lot of success with it. So we have been toying with the idea of extending that.
Well, the safest bet is to take advantage of it before December.
That's correct.
31st.
That's
And the
correct.
great Christmas gifts, actually.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean,
And on our website, you can buy gift cards, you can buy e-gift cards, you can buy wash books on both websites, aquaseville.com and at the aquacarwashexpress.com. And then the last plug for the Charlottesville location, we do have gift certificates for the holiday season that are
Okay.
10% off.
awesome. And then
Fabulous.
The family liked it, as I know Mrs. Irby, Nick's wife, was very happy when she got to go to Aquaseville Hand Car Wash. So you know what? Sometimes your wife will be very happy if you
Absolutely.
do that. So there you go.
Well, I get hit up, every other week or so by my wife when I'm driving carpool. She's like, make sure you take the car by. It needs to be cleaned. I'm like, I'm already on it. I got it.
Before the show, is Sandra Camrath your mom?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
She's
sir.
watching. She is indeed
Hi,
watching.
Mom.
She liked the show. So thank you, Sandra, for watching this morning. And we wish you a 100% speedy recovery.
Absolutely,
It
yes.
sounds like it's already on its way from the knee surgery. So to keep up the great work. Jeff, thanks so much
Thanks for having me, guys.
coming on
Absolutely.
this
Wonderful.
morning. It's
Thank
a
you so
pleasure.
much for coming. Always wonderful.
Always fun.
Yeah.
Always. I
He's-
learned so
he's
much.
just
And
great.
it's just so awesome. I just love talking to Jeff, also getting just his mind of what it's like to be a business owner. Like
Yeah.
beyond just running the business. Like what are
And look
the
at everything he
things-
does beyond that, though,
Exactly.
right? And that's what we always talked about, also the community, helping
Exactly.
the community, and obviously his love for baseball, and he played baseball
Yeah.
here at UVA. So
And the way, and well, just to show you, right? There's always a way to be involved and help your
Yeah.
community in a way that has a personal connection with you.
Exactly.
You don't have to be daunted by there's so many nonprofits in Charlottesville. Which one do I support?
you have to do
There's-
something that you love,
Exactly.
right?
There's
And
gonna
then,
be an
and then that
avenue.
passion will help you, right?
Exactly. There's going to be an avenue for whatever your interest and your personal inclinations
Exactly.
lie to help out in the community.
Yeah, and it's true. There's so much yet to be done in a community, and so many ways you can help. So if you
Exactly.
find a way that it's something that you love to do, that's the
for
best
it.
thing. Yeah,
Go for it.
this has been a lot
It's
of
been
fun.
a lot of fun. Thanks so much for being with me.
Thank you for being
for
with me
co-hosting
too.
with me today. Always appreciate it. Encourage everyone to not just check out our amazing guest from today, but also to come to the Today Mañana event tonight, 5:30 at Castle Hill Cider. You just show up and enjoy some
With us,
great
exactly.
complimentary food. Chat with us. Meet all the amazing business owners that have come on our show over the years, and just enjoy some of the great vibes and cocktails at Castle Hill. So there you have it.
Looking forward to
There you
that.
have it. Next week, our Christmas special. So
That's
you
right.
will have the Irpies. You will have us. If you think this is festive, wait till next week. It'll be even more festive on the show. And we'll be back after that in January with Crystal Nielsen Hall from the Freckled Farm Soap Company, as well as Martin Katz, a local author.
Oh.
So we're going to
Interesting,
jump
okay.
right into it in
Absolutely.
January. Keep your eyes peeled. At some point in January will be our 100th show. So we will have a little anniversary show there to celebrate there in January. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We will see you all next week for our holiday special. As always, love being here on the LFCville Network set. Thank you, Emergent Financial Services, for presenting us. First, thank you, Aqua Seville Hand Car Wash, for being one of our partners, as well as Castle Hill Cider, the Gym Seville, Credit Series Insurance, and Forward Adelante. Thank you all for some great comments. Thank you, Kevin Higgins, for all the great questions and comments this morning. Lily DeRay for the comments, and just everyone that liked the show this morning. Really appreciate just your participation and the fact that you continue to support us. You're the reason why we continue to do
Absolutely.
this show every week.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you all next week. But until that time, as we always end on the show, hasta mañana.